Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today on the Masechtas Ksubas daf Pei Zayin, we are going to begin on Pei Vav Amid Beis at the bottom by the Mishnah. Kasav neder shvua ein li alayach. If a person says to his wife that I am not going to require you to make any type of a shvua, ein yachol hashbia, then obviously she no longer has to do so. He cannot require her to swear. Avol mashbia hu es yorsheha. Says Rashi, im girsha. Let's say they got divorced, umesa, or let's say in the situation that she died, and all of a sudden people are claiming her ksuba. Again, we're talking about if she died, so her yorshim want the ksuba, so nishboyim shvuas yorshim. So in that situation, is brought down Masechtas Shvuos, there is a shvua that the yorshim have to make. So even though he said, I'm not requiring you, my wife, to make a shvua, however, in this situation, anyone who comes in her place, these yorshim, they will be required to make a shvua, as well as Ves Haboyim Bershusa. Says Rashi, let's say Imach Ksubasa. Let's say she sold her ksuba rights to someone else, and then she got divorced or died, and the Lukuchos are claiming it, Nishmoyim Avhem Shvuas Hayorshim. So they also have to make a shvua. So even though it's true, again, he said, I don't want my wife to make a shvua or a neder, that's with exclusion of anyone else. However, let's say it was more specific. Neder shvua ein li alayich, v'al yorshayich, v'al haboyim b'rshuseich. So he excludes all these people from making a shvua. So then obviously that's the din. Einu yochel hashbia. He cannot force her to make a shvua. Lohi, lo yorshel, lo asaboyim b'rshusa. However, avul yorshav mashmian osa. However, his yorshim, they are able to make her make a shvua. V'as yorshev asaboyim b'rshusa, says Rashi. Imnis almana. Let's say the man dies, and she's a widow. And they want to be able to collect from the heirs, this man who had died, his children, Srichin Shvua. Shahari lo patron ela mimenu. The only time they're pater for making shvua is to him. Im tigva ksubasa b'chayav. If they wish to collect the ksuba in his lifetime. However, now that he's not in the picture, so they do have to make a shvua. But let's say it was neder shvua ainly not on me, v'lo yorshai, or on if I would die, any of my yorshim, v'lo l'boyim b'rshusi, olayich v'al yorshayich v'al haboyim b'rshuseich. So basically, it's saying any people and anyone who's making a shvua, and anyone potentially you would make the shvua to, no shvua, no neder. So in that situation, of course, that's the din. She doesn't have to do it. Or anyone in her stead. Fine. So basically, what this Mishnah is saying, which seems to be pretty straightforward, is that whatever the person stipulates, that's what you have to follow. Let's say she goes from literally the grave of her husband to her father's house, or she goes to her father-in-law's house, but she was never appointed to be in charge of the affairs of the store in a yorshim mashbianosa. So the yorshim don't require her to make a shvua. However, even nasis apitrapa, her yorshim mashbianosa, we do make her make a shvua al ha'asid lavo, on the future, which we'll discuss what that means in the second. Rashi says al asik shliachar misa, on all the business transactions that took place after his death. Ve'ein mashbianosa al masha avar, but does not have to make a shvua on that which was, says Rashi, al asik shebachai bala, on all the business transactions that took place in her life, in her husband's lifetime. So the Gemara says, Shavua Mayavidita, says Rashi, Eza Shavua Stam, what Shavua are we talking about? that in general, she'isha chayevas l'bala, that her husband could require her to make a shvuah. Diktani dechi lo patur mashbia, that if there wasn't this patur, then she would normally have to make a shvuah. Dechi patur in mashbia. So Amri Yehuda Rav, this is what we saw in yesterday's daf, as we continue now to pay Zayin but Aleph, al apitropia shenasis b'chayim bala. That normally, when it comes to a woman, says Rashi, avol im al apitropa poitra b'ksiva zos meshuas apitropos im yoshivena chenvaniyos. So if, let's say, she was in charge of his business affairs, the store, so normally, as we saw in a previous Mishnah, the din is that he could require her to make a shvuah. However, in this situation, even though normally she needs to make a shvuah or an oath if she's an apitrapa for his goods, here it's not required. That's what he was talking about. Nachman oimer rabba baravua al hapogemes ksubasa. So if you look in Rashi, the first opinion that says al apitrapa al impogma ksubasa, when it comes to a defective ksuba, which we're going to see in this Mishnah soon, is in a situation where she says that he claims that he paid off the entire ksuba, and she claims, no, I only collected, let's say, half of it. So that's a pogem, the ksuba's poigam. So in this situation, the Mishnah later on is going to say she has to make a shvuah in that situation. If you look in Rashi above, in that situation, you would have to make a shvuah. This condition, according to the first pshat, is only to remove an apitrapa. However, the chiyuv of a pogemus ksuba would still stand. The chi patila meshvua the karami hu Allah of a shua dihi garma lenavshlo patila. An interesting svara, because the chiluk is that when it comes to the apitrapa, that's something in which is her job. However, when it comes to pogemus, she's the one that caused it. So since she's the one that initiated the problem by saying, I already received half of my ksuba, that he's not going to have pattered. So she would still have to make a shvuah, an oath, according to the first pshat. So the second pshat about pogemus ksubasa, Rashi is v'kol shekin mishvuas apitrapa. Then certainly she'd be pattered from that one, based on the logic we said before. So Azo Mordechai Amro Shmaisa Kamei Rav Ashi. So he said this whole sugya. He said, I can understand the second shot, that she's completely being removed even when it comes to being poigim ksuba, demaska adaita, because the woman thinks, Dilma mitztarchli zuzi, maybe I'll need money, vishakilna miksuvasoi, and I'll collect from my ksuba. Therefore, she says, she therefore says, Kosavli dolo mashbas li. Right for me that I should not have to require shvuah for you, because this is something that may be on her head to think about. And Rashi says, Umig duramia navsha tabule pater kol shvuos. That she's doing a job overseeing his business. Does the woman really know the that she's going to be appointed this job, the Amrle, that she'll say therefore to him, Kosavli dolo mashboisli? Why would she think to even bring this up? Amrle ato nahamas nisula, anana hamas nisula. So you say like this, I say it a little bit differently. As Rashi says, "V'hadu Rav Yehuda reish lemasnisin dulo parish ba behe shvua." It doesn't really mention again in the Mishnah what the shvua is. I'm going on the seifa. Halcha mikever bala, in a situation where she leaves the seifa of the Mishnah, where she leaves her husband and he just died, l'beis avia, or shechaz l'beis chamia, and she's just going back to her parents' house. Lo nasis apitrapiam. And if she was not appointed as an apitrapos, then any yoshim mashminosa, then there's no shvuah she has to make. But if she's an apitrapos, yoshim mashminosa al hasav lavo. So, as we saw in Rashi, on all business matters which are after the husband's death, she has to make a shua to the Yarshim, but not anything in the past. So in this Rashi already said it, but the Gemara asks, She'avar my vidite, says Rashi, Kloimer, ad mosai kori l'she'avar. What does the past mean? Delo emrina nixne diasmininhu. Vein tenai shalom moil behen. Like, how far back are we talking about? Back in his lifetime. So Amar Yehuda Marav Aliyah Petrapis Shnas B'Chayabal. It's referring to where she was an apitropis already in her husband's lifetime. Of a bein misl kvura mashbiin law. However, that's what it's referring to. While her husband was alive, she doesn't have to make a shvua. But even between the mis and the kvura, during that time, already the Yisomim have a connection to the monies, and therefore she has to make a shvua on it. Even during that time between the mis and the kvura, she still doesn't have to make a shvua on any business that was done in that time. The Aminar Doi, because it said with karga regarding a head tax to the king, umazaini, and when it comes to the mazonos to a woman or to the daughters, v'likvura, and when it comes to the burial of a mace, mizabninan below achrazta. It could be sold without much announcements. Says Rashi, nechse diasmi below achrazta. Then shois, there's no time. Mita in ledavar. V'hachinami lo mashbiin al asa mechira. So basically what Rashi's saying is that it's not necessary during this time to have to deal with all the red tape when it comes to a business transaction, because when it comes to the kvura, she can do any sale. So as long as it was between the mis and the kvura, there's no shua necessary. Amar Rabba, Amar Rav Chia, Delo neder delo shvua. When the statement, which was in our Mishnah, if he wrote in this language, Delo neder delo shvua, hu eni yachal hashpia. That's when the shvua is not going to be done. However, the Yorshim could require to make a shvua. If a person says Naki neder Naki shvua, you use that language, then Bein hu Bein Yorshim in mashbinoisa. So that frees them completely. So Hachi Karmela, this is what you're basically saying to her. Menakas mishvuasa. You're completely clean and free from any shvua. Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Chia, Delo neder delo shvua. When you say it that way, hu eni yachal hashpia. Ava Yorshim mashbinoisa. Naki neder, naki shvua, bein hu bein yorshin mashbinoisa. On the contrary, when you say the word naki, you're not saying you're completely free from making a shvua. Rather, hachi karmela, naki nafshach b'shvuasa. Cleanse yourself by making a shvua. Shalach Rav Zakai Lamar Ukva bein deloi shvua, bein de naki shvua, bein delo neder, bein de naki neder. However you said it, if you said it benichse, in my properties, hu eni yachal hashpia, of a yorshim hashpia noisa. However you say min nichsai elaine, these properties, not in my properties, but these properties, then because you specified bein hu bein yorshim in mashpia noisa. Amar Abdach when Amar Shmuel mishum Abba Shoyel ben Ima Miriam bein delo shvua, bein de naki shvua, bein delo neder, bein de naki neder, bein minachsai, bein minachsai. Whether you said in any of these languages, in my possessions, these possessions, minachsai elaine, bein hu, bein yarshav in mashbi noisa. We never require shvua of a ma'aset. But what am I supposed to do? Shari Amar Chachamim, because Chachamim say, and this is a very important line, Haboli parm nechsi yisayim lo yiprel b'shvua. The Chachamim institute that a shvua is still necessary, even though mikra din you shouldn't have to. V'higdi amru lo masnisa abba shoyel ben ima miriam omer ben deloy shvua ben denaka shvua ben delon neder ben naki neder ben nichsa ilain ben hu ben yarshiv in mashbinoisa. In all these situations, shvua is not necessary. V'lo ma'asa shar emach chachamim kabol lepar nechsi yisomni lepar el b'shvua. And we're not going to mishmul halacha keben ima miriam. The halacha, in fact, is like this. Okay. Before we see the next mission, let's look at question 9. So either shvuas apitrapia or af al pogemes ksubasa. TA 11. Kosable another shua in levachu. Dim nasis apitrapa hayorshim ashbianoisa al asilavo velo al masha'avar. Ma nikra sha'avar. What's in the past? So it's either everything that was b'chai bala, or maybe it's also coming to include ben misa l'kvura. Okay, that was TA 11. So let's just mark this down, then we'll see the next Mishnah. Alebutropia shenasis b'chai bal, avol ben misa l'kvura mashpinasa, or afilu ben misa l'kvura lo mashpin lo. Okay, so that's the machlokas. Weiter. Next Mishnah. Hapogemus ksubas, as we already established. The Mishnah here is going to explain what it is, even we talked about it already. If you have a situation where you have a partial payment ksuba, l'tipra el b'shvua, it has to be paid with a shvua. Only if she makes a shvua. Eid echad meida shehi parua. If, let's say, you have one witness that says the husband paid off the ksuba, l'tipra el b'shvua, she needs to make a shvua. Let's say menichsi yisaimim. Let's say she wishes to collect from the nichsei yisaimim u'menechasim mishubadim. Let's say the man sold the property, but there's a lien on it, u'shalo b'fanav, or not in front of the husband, lo tivrei b'shvua. Now, we're going to see all this now. Hapogemus ksubas aketza. What's that case? So the ksuba is $1,000, 1,000 zuz. Yormula his kabalt ksubasech. You already received your ksuba entirely. Yomeres lu his kabalti elamana. I only collected part of it. Lo tipor el b'shvua. So she can't collect the rest unless she makes a shvua. Eidach and me'idah shipura ketzad. Hais ksuba sal zuz. Let's say the ksuba begins $1,000. 1,000 zuz. V'yarmula his kabalt ksubasech. You already got your whole ksuba. V'yomeres lo his kabalti. I didn't get a penny. The eidach and me'idah shipura. And now the husband, produces one witness that actually she did collect. So let's say the husband sold property. So now she wants to collect from these people to collect from the assignment. Mace. Let's say the husband died. And he left over possessions to his kids. She needs to make a shvua to the assignment. So let's say the man traveled to another country, and she wishes to collect a ksuba not in front of him. In that situation, in Nifras El B'Shvua, as we continue to pay Zion Amud Beis, Rav Shimon Oimer, so Rav Shimon says, the Gemara is going to explain what part of the Mishnah previously is he going on. Kozman shi tovas ksubasa, anytime that she's collecting a ksuba, hayorsh mashpiyanoisa. The Yersh can always make a shvua. If she's not claiming her ksuba in her Yershin, mashpiyanoisa. Okay, we'll understand what that means later. So Sava Rambam Baruch Hamala Meimer Shvua Deraisa to Katayin Masayim to come Moidele B'Meya Havale Hoidel B'Mixas Atayna V'Chol Moidel B'Mixas Atayna Yishava. So we know that there's a din deraisa. Some shuas are derabbanan, and this l'chor is a shua deraisa, where you have a situation that the person who's making the person says, "You owe me $100," and I say, "No, I owe you $50." So I'm being moed b'mixas. I'm admitting to half or part. So the din is that there's a shvua deraisa on that. So l'chayra, some of these cases, certainly let's say pogemus ksubasa, sounds a lot like being moed b'mixas, because she's admitting that she received some, but she still wants to collect more. So maybe the shvua that she's making is the shvua deraisa. So Amarav state shuvas b'davar. This is not the case, and this is going to be question TB12, which asks the following question, which is going to be what we're going to see right here. So there's two answers. What are the state shuvas b'davar? First of all, Chada dechol hanishboyin shebetayra nishboyin v'lo mishalmen v'hin nishboyin no telas. Normally, what happens, the shvua deraisa is I make a shvua that I'm telling you the truth, and therefore I don't have to pay you anything. Here, she's making a shvua to collect, which is the opposite. Ba'od ein nishboyin al kviras shibud karkais. Also, since the ksuba is collected by karka, there's no shvua on denial of a shibud, which is on land. There's no chiyav deraisa on kvir shibud karkais. El omeravos. Therefore, what is this shvua? It's obviously the rabbanon. Min rabbanon the paradayak. We know that the man, the one who made the partial payment, assuming he made a payment, the mifra. So he's very medayik because he's the one paying the money. The mifra, the one who's collecting the money, lo dayak. They're not really as particular. So we require shvua on the woman because she needs to be more precise. She has to know exactly what's going on over here. Okay, this is question 10. 10 asks the question, Matam de hapoigemis ksubas inifras el b'shvua. So he said because the man is going to be particular, the woman may not be. So therefore, because of that, it's not because it's a woman or a man, it's because whenever you pay money, you're counting your money. It's your money. You're parting with that money. So it's something which is more endearing to you. The person who receives it may not be as careful. Which just shows it's harder to part with money than to receive it. Okay. Iboilhu. So the Gemara asks the question. Poigemus ksubasa be'edim. Mahu. Let's say that in fact there was witnesses, says Rashi, his kabalti mana, that she got $100, and they edim kibaltiv. The $100 was, let's say, with witnesses. The question is, regarding the rest of the money, mahu. Imis the para be'edim, if in fact he paid be'edim havi parla, then l'chara he would have paid also everything with witnesses, because the fact odelma isramui isramile just happened to have witnesses at that time. In other words, the fact that there was a witness for the $100, maybe that shows that he's particular to always have witnesses when he's paying off his loans, or in this case, the part of the ksuba. So the question is, therefore, if in fact there was a witness, so we know for sure the 100 was done. So then the question is, maybe the other 900, the fact that there's no witnesses to that effect means that he has a good claim that he didn't, or in that case, she has a good claim that he didn't pay her the rest. So the fact that there was a witness, does that change the claim at all? Tashma. So he said, typically, when it comes to a shvua, certainly when it's shvua deraisa, we have the person make a shvua and they don't pay. They keep their money. But there are some times that that's not the case. For example, when it comes to hasocher, when a person says, please pay me my money for my job, and you say, I already paid you. So in that situation, we will say that the employee will make a shvua to collect the money because he'll remember if he was paid. V'hanigzol, if you have someone who is a nigzol, And Rashi says, "Re'uhu shenichnas beveso armelo tamli keloi shenatalti." You stole my television. V'hu oimer lo nitalti. I didn't take it. Ve'edim rosh yotza. Witnesses saw he went out. Ve'kilam tachas kanfe taliso, and he's holding something underneath. V'lo yadu ma. They didn't know what it was. So in this situation, the nigzol makes the shvua, not the gazlan. So this way he'll be able to get his item back. V'hanechbol. Rashi says, Re'ush nichnas osach beso. Again, someone goes into someone's house. V'yodo shalim, and his hand was healthy. V'yotza chovel, and now all of a sudden he has a hurt hand. Amar chavalti, you hurt me. V'amar lo chavalti. So again, the question is, if I can now make a shvua, so I'll collect. Ukshkenegdu chashad al shvua, which is similar to like a nigzol, is where you have a person who is just in general chayshid on shvua. We don't trust him, so we have the other person do it. V'chenvini al pinkasai, or when it comes to a stoner regarding his ledger, says Rashi, shikaisabo hakaposav kach tzivani ploini loses lepalov. That it says that you're going to pay your workers for me, but asati lehem. I never got paid. And here's the key. There's a whole reason why I bring this all down. If you're poigim as star pogum, which again means part of it was paid, but it was paid without witnesses. So that's only that is the case. Which the dik is shlo be'edim in be'edim lai. It's only when there's no witnesses. However, when it comes to with witnesses, we're not going to say that this person can simply make a shvua and collect. No. If there was witnesses that saw the first transaction, the first partial payment, the vadisricha shvua. In that situation, you still need a shvua, says Rashi al shar, and the rest of the money. The reason why he's admitting that, yeah, you're right, I paid you back the first 100 whatever was collected, is because you can't deny it, because there's witnesses that saw it. If there was no witnesses for the first payment, you can maybe say that this whole thing is like a Meshav Aveda. Says Rashi, Shar Yeshlo Star Shalim. There's a complete star that's saying that you really owe me all the money. I could have said I never collected anything. But Tishkel below Shvua. L'chaira, they should be able to collect even without a Shvua. Kamashvua. The din is that they can still collect, but they collect with a Shvua. But that doesn't answer our question. Says Rashi, the money that was admitting that I paid you, every day you gave me like a penny, and based on afil pachas meshavar pruta. The question is, says the Gemara, the fact that he was so particular in accounting for every nickel, kush to ka'amra, that should be proof that he's being honest. Dilma arumi kami. Maybe he's just being showing elements of trickery, the way that he's doing this. Take iboilhu poicheses ksubasa mahu. Rashi says, so the ksub was 1,000. Kosta b'shtar, but who oimer his kabalt kula. He says, I paid you everything. This is where the argument is. The Omer says, Rashi his kabati kulum. You gave me nothing. But I do admit, so his nesa ami ksubasi elomana. The truth is that you only owe me 100. In other words, you never paid me, right? You never paid me anything. But the real amount you owe me is only $100, not $1,000. So you're poicheses ksubasa. You claim less than what this first guy claims. Miamrin and Hainu Pogemes, is that similar to the case of Pogemes? Oldima Pogemes, Modima Mixus. Here at least they're admitting to part. Here there's no initial. She's not admitting to any of it. None of it was paid. Tashma poicheses. In this case of poicheses, tifra shelo b'shavua. You collect without a shavua. So Kate said, what is that case? Haisik ksubas elf zuz. The ksubas 1,000. Yomla his kabat ksubas seich. And he says to her, I paid you the whole thing, the whole 1,000. Yomer slo his kabalti, I did not receive it. They know elamana. However, you don't owe me 1,000. It was only 100. So nifrash lo b'shvua. So in this situation, she collects, and she can even collect without a shvua. So b'mai gavi b'haishtara chas b'myalmahu. The question is, what right does she have to be able to collect even the 100? Because her whole basis is based on a star, which is like a piece of pottery. It's obviously, she's admitting that it's nothing. So I'm a rabba berei the rabba biomeris amana haisali bein leveinoi. Says Rashi. Chishtar nichtav nechtam kahaygen. It was actually a good star. If nehaedim kibel lav elf zuz. Aval hu hemin bi shlo esbaenu elamana. But he entrusted with me not to collect except for 100. So in other words, even though it was a star for 1,000, but nonetheless we made a deal. I'm only going to collect the 100. Okay. Question 10. Umadua poichesas ksubasa enu kipoigemas. Why is this not the same? Because poichesas ksubasa kibandula modim mixasi nemenes. So again, because this is a situation where it's not like a case of pogemes, because it's not a case of modim mixas. Ha loika modim mixas. Fighter. Eid echad me'idashin parua. So you have one witness says that it was paid in full. So she makes a shvua. So Samaram and Barchamo Meimer shvua deraisa. Maybe this is also shvua deraisa. Nexiv. Lo yokem eid echad beish l'chol ava and l'chol chatos. So the pasuk says the diak, familiar diak, that one witness cannot cause a person to get severe punishments. L'chol ava l'chol chatos hu de'inu kam. Avakam hu l'shvua. But one witness could require to make a shvua. So maybe this is eid echad. That's why she has to make a shvua midaraisa. Anytime if you have two witnesses that there's a chiyav mamoin, that they would say that you owe money, in which two witnesses will listen, one person can be mechuyev a shvua. Some Rabbi state shuvas b'davar. This is not true. Why? Tell us. So as we said before, in this case, it's not a shvua deraisa. Shvua deraisa is you make a shvua and don't pay. Here, she's making a shvua to collect, and also the ksuma is linked to karka. El Omarava. What is the reason for the shvua? Is only min rabbanan kadei l'hafez daita shel baal. It's to calm the mindset of the baal. So once he hears that she makes this shvua, so then all of a sudden he's going to be satisfied with her words. But it's not because it's a shvua deraisa, it's a shvua d'rabbanan. Ad kan.